The fiscal year 2015 President's budget request includes $119 billion for the Army that falls under the Defense Subcommittee's jurisdiction. The budget request does not include funding for overseas contingency operations, known as OCO. That's a big concern. Until we receive the President's plan for support in Afghanistan post-2014, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to appropriate proper levels of funding to support our warfighters. To comply with the budget caps specified in the Budget Control Act, the Army is facing an estimated $170 billion in budget reductions over the next 10 years, on top of sequestration, which forced the Army to cut an additional $37 billion in fiscal year 2013. How to achieve these savings is a familiar story. Each military service is forced to find a balance between in-strength, readiness, and modernization. The Army is reducing in-strength as rapidly as possible in order to rebuild readiness. But to do this, you must accept greater risk in modernization programs. Your fiscal year 2015 request establishes obvious priorities. The purpose of this hearing is to investigate the rationale behind those decisions and determine whether they're the right ones. Despite budget challenges we face, we cannot waver from protecting our most precious asset. I say to you, gentlemen, and I know that you know this far better than I do, not only do you represent our men and women in uniform and their families, but you also represent a devoted and competent and professional civilian workforce, a crucial part of the Army team. However, there's a proposal recently surfacing in Congress to cut DoD's civilian workforce by 15% and to somehow use the, quote, savings, unquote, to invest in weapon systems and other capabilities. Our witnesses know the value of our civilian workforce. I see it in my home state of Illinois at the Rock Island Arsenal. When the private sector couldn't provide our troops with what they needed to fight with in Iraq, the civilian workers at Rock Island stepped up to answer the call. These men and women are a national treasure wherever they serve our military. Rock Island is also home to much of the Army's contract oversight capability, which we've only recently rebuilt as a nation. I hope that many people still remember, in the 1990s, large civilian layoffs forced the Pentagon to hire contractors to oversee contractors, and the result was tens of billions of dollars wasted in lead system integrator, or TISPER contracts. This outsourcing of weapons systems oversight cost taxpayers and the Army dearly. The Future Combat Systems program cost $20 billion before it was canceled and yielded very few fielded capabilities. Another example, the ground mobile radio, which 7 years behind schedule and 70% over its development budget when it was finally terminated. The drastic cuts in civilian oversight were a critical failure in both of these programs. We cannot repeat this mistake again. I look forward to working with you, our distinguished panel, throughout the year so that our fiscal year 2015 appropriations bill can enable the United States Army to successfully defend our national interest around the world. We sincerely appreciate your service to America and the dedication and sacrifice made daily by the men and women in our Army.